Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, how are my snipers doing today? I hope you guys are doing fantastic. Listen, today we're going to be talking about the markets generally speaking, right? Generally speaking, we're going to be talking about, is it time to buy? Is it time to wait for a retracement? What is it time for? Now, you know me that I am not, the most stingy when it comes to entry prices. Yes, I do love discounts. And when I see great discounts, especially when there's like a big day where all coins crash and Bitcoin crashes 10K. And, I do buy on those days, right? I just buy, I buy. That's where I dollar cost average is on big red days. But the thing is, ladies and gentlemen, I don't believe overall that we will be having very big red days in general, right? So something like Bitcoin, we came above and closed above, the 91, 92K zone, which is very, very important. We closed exactly practically at $94,000, which was, like $2,000 more than we needed to, but that's very, very good. Now, I do expect a little bit of a retracement, right? But I don't think we will be breaking back down into this sector over here, right? I don't think we will, and I don't think we will be hitting this order block as well, right? For me, these two zones are going to be kind of irrelevant. If I was wrong and there was a big pullback, it would probably be something like the top of this, where it'd be like 87K, and then it would probably close back above 92K to then continue momentum going up, right? But I do not see us really breaking out of this main range, right? This rectangle box over here, this one around 92, 93, $91,000. I do not expect it because of how strong the weekly candle close was, okay? So, you know, I do expect, like I said, a little bit of pullbacks. And if that is going to be the case, you do have to realize, right, that means altcoins probably won't be retracing that much. So you cannot be too stingy, right? You cannot be too stingy. Like I said, Dia has moved perfectly off our zone, massive rejection, and pushes to the upside. So yeah, even something like Dia has pumped a lot. So if you were looking, for any of these days to just wait for a pullback, maybe here, if you got from pullback from 47 cents to 41, you could have had a good opportunity. But look, if you just kept waiting, you would have missed the train. If you were in the Discord community, which you guys highly recommend joining, at least, just for the little while until altcoin season ends, you could have seen that the technical analysis was marked up, and we did actually call buys for something like Dia at 30 cents. So if you were in the community at this current moment, you would have been up nicely, 108%, right? We literally called the bottoms of this coin. So really, really, happy about that. But look, right, you got to realize a lot of coins, they're not going to wait for you anymore, right? You have to realize that the thing was, February, March were the main sell-off candles, right? It was the main sell-off months. Sure, January we also sold off a good amount, but you got to realize, January, February, March was the main sell-off, right? We talked about that when it was happening. We talked about how April, the beginning of April, is going to be a liquidity sweep off of zones, right? Taking out zones, especially for something like Bitcoin and other altcoins. We could see that over here we are, this is the last monthly March price action, right? So on the weekly, on the daily, on, the monthly, and then even on the 3 month, we get swept, right? This area gets swept, right? Bitcoin and stuff goes down an extra 2,000-3,000 from that zone. And then we can see instant reversals. So, exactly playing out how we talked about. So, the markets are, they're not going to wait for premium discounts. We've had premium discounts, right? Something like Bitcoin was ranging between, generally speaking, let's just say 78,000 and 87,000 over the span of, a month and a half, even a little bit more. So there's so many buying opportunities that you cannot be too stingy when it comes, right? If you see something like Ondo for under $1 is a fantastic price. It really is. And we can see Ondo, we talked about how Ondo was going to go into our zone. These were the two main areas between 88 cents and 93 cents, right? If you even got the top of the zone or, got in at 92, you would have been in, right? Ondo most likely is going to shoot up. And if we do not see any big, retracements this week, Ondo will most likely reclaim $1.05 and even go upwards of $1.20 in the very, very near future. So you cannot just be stingy right now. You cannot be, super, picky with your prices, right? You got to realize we are in recovery stage. That is what we're doing, and that is what's going to be happening over the next 2 months. We're going to be recovering to prices where we were back just a couple months ago. So something like XDC, right? It is at 8 cents. I expect this coin probably to be upwards of 14 cents in 2 months, right? Render, I expect Render to already recover back up to this zone over here, roughly of $6.80, right? Roughly of $6.80. And then probably even higher, upwards of potentially something like $10 over the next, couple of weeks. And that is going to be near its all-time highs, right? We could be even higher, but I'm just saying on a more conservative zone, something more realistic, right? That we will most likely, be seeing that. And look, for something like Render, right? This is the last time it was updated when it was somewhere over here. But, we can see there are multiple daily rejections. And if I were to tell you what is the last relevant zone, it would have said, this imbalance and order block of roughly 415, your average price is going to be good. We can see we hit it, and now we're already at 446, right? Because that's how it works. Once coins start pumping fast, right, you have to look in its relevant range, right? That is just how the markets work. We can see 4-hour candle boom. It ended up flipping, right? It was actually a very nice bearish rejection. It ended up being a green candle, and then now we are just continuing to push higher and higher, and we most likely will be breaking up to $5, $6 very, very soon. The only way we get stopped is if Bitcoin, does go back to like 90, 91,000. But look, guys, right, I'm super excited for altcoin season. We can see something like Bitcoin dominance is also ready. It's preparing to continue to go up, right? The closer we get to that 70% zone, the more highly probable it is going to crash. Now, I can't tell you exactly where it's going to crash, and it doesn't necessarily matter 100%, right? But we will, be going upwards of, 70 to 74% on the maximum area. And then, once we start seeing some type of rejections off of here, that is when altcoins will really start pumping, right? If you think they're going to start pumping, while we still, recover in price and Bitcoin dominance goes up, then you'll be really surprised how much they're going to pump once we kind of break from this zone back down a couple percent lower, maybe somewhere down to 60% before we crash, right? The next month or two, right, we very may well hit 70% dominance. Altcoins will recover to where they were. Let's just say Render recovers, from $4 and whatever cents to, let's say, $11 upwards of here. Then we have a crash of Bitcoin dominance, which is great for us. Render, let's say, will go from $11 to like 25, $30, go sideways for a while. And then once we start crashing, Render will go from $25 to $120. That is how I overall expect this to play out. And the more data we have, the more likely it just seems like it's going to play out that way. But yeah, that is pretty much it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys did enjoy. Remember, do not be too stingy with the prices. Right now, we've had premium sniper prices just not too long ago. So don't expect those to be happening, but you still have a great deal, right? Remember, if something like Render does hit $80, $100, $120, buying it at $450 is going to be like, well, hindsight, I should have bought it here, right? So just think about that. So a little bit different type of video, but yeah, that is it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys enjoy, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Goodbye.